Hey folks, this is video number 3 on maximizing the heat from your wood stoves. Maximizing the heat from your wood stoves. So I'm sitting here in front of my wood stove and it's nice and toasty and I feel that heat coming through and that's always a good thing. Now how do you maximize, this is tip number 3, how do you control the airflow room to room? Well, in video number 1 on this topic, we talked about having a curtain to be able to actually stop airflow or closing the doors, how important that is. But what we're going to talk about today is what if you want to actually encourage airflow room to room, okay? So this here, you can see the door is closed, so we're actually preventing airflow from room to room. But what if we want to actually encourage, here we'll go this way, encourage the airflow room to room? Well, I'll show you a trick that I learned a lot about and did a lot of research on. How do you actually accelerate? So naturally the air, right? We have these tissues up, and the tissue, you can see this tissue is leaning in tremendously. And what that tells me, and we talked about this in video number 1, that this tissue leaning in like that is telling us that hot air is flowing into this room, which is what we want. But what if you want to accelerate that? What if you want that to happen even faster than the natural flow? Well, the key is, and I learned this the hard way. So I actually went and I bought a fan and a 20-foot long metal pipe, and I put it behind my wood stove where I know it's really hot. I measured the air and it's around 110 degrees, and I actually took that air and pushed it into this room, which I wanted to heat up. And what I realized was that even though I did that and put the tube and was pulling in hot air, it actually was cooling off in that pipe by the time it reached this room, and it just wasn't doing the job. It wasn't pulling hot air. And what I learned is the way to heat a room up is not actually to try to bring in heat from a source like a wood stove. The trick is to actually push the cold air out of that room. That's the way to do it. So what you'll do is, if you could, it's naturally happening all the time. There's always cold air coming out of the room. But what if we could accelerate that? And the way to do that is you could put a fan like I did here, and this fan actually takes, and the fan is taking and pushing a cold air from this room that's colder, and it's actually pushing air this way, the cold air into the warmer room towards the wood stove. The goal is to get all that cooler air towards the wood stove. The wood stove heats it up, and then it sends it back in a warmer condition. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm accelerating the cold air coming out of this room, and of course we talked about this in the first video. The displacement of this cold air is going to force more hot air to come in this room faster, and then that hot air will heat this room up more than trying to actually force hot air into the room. Okay, so that's kind of tip number 3 there, is if you could find a way to push that cold air out of the room faster, that will actually heat the room up quicker. Okay, and you don't need to put it on high or anything. The fan could be on low, so you're not using a lot of electricity and you're not creating a lot of air current that anyone can even feel, or doesn't make the fan loud that way. It just kind of just helps to encourage some very light air movement, but just to happen faster than naturally. Okay, well that's tip number 3, and please stick with us, and now we'll go into tip number 4, and please subscribe to us, and also any comments from folks or questions, happy to entertain them.